Today's conversation is sponsored by First Generation Capital Partners. If you're an accredited investor and you want to find out more about investment opportunities, go to firstgencp.com/invest.
So I said that you have to feel like you're free when you're an entrepreneur, Billy.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I could have easily gone out and sailed to nearby Party Island by my house and had a great weekend, but I had to finish up all the bookkeeping. But you know what? Even when I'm doing those things, it's cool.
You're listening to the Going Long podcast with Billy Keels, the #1 podcast for long-distance real asset investing.
Welcome to the Going Long podcast. We're back once again to continue to help to educate you so you feel much more comfortable as well as confident investing beyond your backyard. And yes, I am your host, Billy Keels, and I am super excited to welcome you back to today's conversation because this one is awesome. You're really going to enjoy today's conversation. But listen, you know what? We continue to move up the charts together. The podcast continues to move higher and higher and higher. And we really appreciate every single download that you make, every single conversation you're having because you're sharing it. And also an extra special thank you to everyone who continues to leave your honest written review as well as ratings on the Apple Podcast platform. If you've not done that yet, go over there, do it really quickly. It's going to be super fast. And if you need some help, we have a nice little video. Just click the link here. Leave your nice, honest written review as well as rating. It helps us to continue to give you the best content that you need to move yourself forward faster. So also, I know a lot of you want to check out the previous podcasts and you can't find them on your favorite platform. Just go to billykeels.com. When you get there, the screen's going to change really quickly. And then when it does, just go to the podcast tab. Pretty soon, this is all going to be really simple and even easier. But for the moment, just do those steps and you can find every single episode you ever wanted to find. So with that, lastly, anyone who's interested in not getting crushed anymore by your W-2 income and you are an accredited investor, you will want to connect with me because our accredited investor club is awesome. And we're talking about meeting other people who are accredited investors and also being given access to some very specific deals. So with that, just send me an email, aiclub@billykeels.com. Once again, that's aiclub@billykeels.com. And listen, lastly, today's conversation is just absolutely fantastic. We literally have an award-winning data scientist who was and a published bioscientist who is now really found the right location in real estate, continues to help others, and is basically the foundry for moving things forward faster. So you're going to enjoy this. PhD. Guy's done a lot of things, everything from entrepreneurship, where he focuses a lot of his time, his energy. He even has an awesome podcast. We're going to tell you more about that, and really building teams in the real estate world. So listen, I cannot wait for you to get to today's conversation with Dr. George Roberts III. We're going to get to that just after this. Are you a busy, high-paid professional, someone who's made $200,000 the previous 2 years and also expected to earn $200,000 this year? Or maybe as a couple, you filed jointly and you've earned $300,000 the previous 2 years and also expected to earn $300,000 together this year. Or maybe yourself or as a couple, you have $1 million in net worth, not including your home. Well, if you meet any of those criteria, then the IRS considers you to be someone who is an accredited investor. And so that probably means you're a top producing software sales executive, or maybe you're a highly paid consultant. Maybe you're a lawyer, maybe you're a doctor or a business owner. You may even work for a professional sports franchise. Well, one way or the other, you've done a lot of really hard work to get to where you are. You've done 100% of the work, and nowadays you're continuing to get crushed by taxes. And that means you're only bringing home 50% of the reward. If you're tired of doing this over and over and you're looking for a solution to start to keep more of your money, you can go to firstgencp.com/invest so that you can start to keep more of your money, which means that you can start to have the freedom to choose what you want to do, when you want to do it, with whom you want to do it. So once again, go to firstgencp.com/invest to see how we can start to help you today. Once again, that's firstgencp.com/invest. If you want to understand the importance of having a strong foundational plan to your long distance investing journey, then guess what? Today's a conversation you're going to want to listen to until the very last word, I promise. You know why? Because today's guest, check this out. Today's guest is an award-winning data scientist as well as published bioscientist. I'm sure he's going to tell us about that, but it doesn't stop there. Hang on. He is a PhD, has his doctoral fellow in neuroscience. And he's got some more beyond that bit. I'm sure he's going to tell us about that. He also had some experience in the IT industry and web development. He got into real estate investing in 2010, and I'm sure he's going to talk to us a lot more about that. And he's also the host of the super popular The Foundry podcast, and he is also the principal at Horizon Multifamily. It gives me great pleasure to welcome to today's conversation, Mr. George Roberts III. George, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you so much, Billy. It's great to be here.
Oh, man. You look at that. Look at that wonderful smile. Everybody, check us out on the video. This man's got $1 million smile. Check it out. So listen, George, you and I've had a number of great conversations. I was also kind enough to be on your podcast. And, I'd like to do things a little bit differently here. Of course, you're going to get 5 questions. You're going to get 2 in the beginning. You're going to get 3 in the very, very end. But here's the thing. Could we go ahead and get started with today's conversation?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
All right, here we go. Let's do it. So help us understand, George, very first question, where exactly do you live in the United States?
So I live in Southeast Michigan. I'm a little bit north of Detroit. I do invest, however, generally in the Sun Belt.
Yes. We're going to get to all that wonderful stuff. So neighbor to the north, which is fantastic. We love it. And then the other thing, George, I always love to start out with some positivity. What's the most positive thing that's happened to you in the last 24 hours?
Well, I have to say, Billy, I just celebrated my 22nd anniversary with my wife. Went out to a jazz club, got her a little gold bangle, and spent a lot of time reconnecting with the wife. It was really great.
Fantastic, man. And congratulations, by
Thank
the way,
you.
George. 22 years. That's awesome, man. What a milestone. So listen, here's the thing. The Going Long family knows this about me. I try to give myself these really keep the bar really, really high in terms of setting the standard. Sometimes I do it just too much because I literally try to tell your entire backstory in 3.5 seconds. That's impossible, right? The thing is, the Going Long family, they forgive me week after week, conversation after conversation. And I hope that you as our guest will also forgive me for trying to do something so absurd. At the same time, I'm going to ask you for some help. Number one, I really hope that you will tell and share your backstory in your own words, George. And if you could also help us understand some of the major decisions that you've made to get to this point in your journey. And then we'll see where you and I take the conversation. Does that sound like a plan?
Beautiful. Let's hit it.
All right, perfect. Let's hear that backstory, C. Please.
All right. So I started out in bioscience, as you mentioned. Really loved it. It was fascinating, but not much in terms of a career. Very hard to make decent money like that. You get to the stage of having a family and realizing that you're not going to be young forever. Nice to travel a bit. So I thought, well, I'll go into bioinformatics. And so actually most of my research, I would say, has been focused on genomics. So the more quantitative, computational end of biology. That was really wonderful. I thought, wow, now that I'm moving towards genomics, bioinformatics, I can just kind of take my computer home in the evening and spend the time with the family. That was my idea of being family friendly or of having some freedom in my life. Well, fast forward a little further and I decided, look, I really want to work in industry, and that just never panned out for me. Sometimes when you get a PhD and you spend a few years in academia beyond that, people just sort of peg you as an egghead, and they say hey, we're not going to bring this guy into the biz. We don't need the eggheads around here. And so it never came to be. So I actually had to go back and get a master's degree. I got that in 2 semesters, computer science master's. And I was off to the races, new career in data science. But again, that felt like freedom. Wow. I can work 9 to 5 and I'm making good money. What the heck? But it really wasn't until my sister came to me and said, hey, look, we're going to found this construction company. Let's do this together. And she introduced me to the world of entrepreneurship. So she had been in business for many, many years, leader in finance. And to her, that was kind of a normal, natural next step for her. For me, that was completely different than anything I'd ever done. I got bitten by the entrepreneurial bug, and I decided, hey, I've got to go and do this full time. I want to be a serial entrepreneur. So what do I know? Well, I had been a landlord for almost 10 years, single family space. I thought, well, I understand landlording and I want my own business. I'm making 6 figures plus. I don't want to just jump from the frying pan into the fire. So I'm going to do something that is a little bit passive, let's be a landlord, but let's do it this time in multifamily. So I call that doing real estate at scale, just like data science is handling data at scale. So we're just going to do this, but we're going to do it a whole lot more efficiently. And there you have it. All of a sudden, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm founding my second real business and loving it, but still having the time to make really good money during the day.
Wow. You know what? So there's a number of different things I want to go to, but there were two moments in what you shared of your backstory. Like, I think leave us asking a couple of questions. Number one, you're in a position where you've had an opportunity to become an expert in your field. You are earning, 6+ in terms of figures of salary, and there's still this desire to do something else. Like most people that we come across, George, when you're making 6-figure salaries, like mids and higher 6-figure salaries, people feel like you're at the pinnacle. Like, why would you ever do anything else? You kind of give us some insight into that. But my thought is, okay, you've got your PhD, you've now have your you've got your master's, and you're in the business. What in the world? Why did you want to continue to want to do something else?
Well, you're right, Billy. It is a little bit nuts. But again, you either have that drive, you either feel free as an entrepreneur or you don't. And what you described is perfect description of golden handcuffs, right? You're making so much money and hopefully they give you vacation time. Although when you're making good money, you don't always feel like you can take it. But again, you got all those.
Hang on a second. I want you to please repeat what you just said because that was, I want to make sure that people not just heard it, but felt it. Can you please repeat that whole thing about
exactly
the salary please?
So a lot of people who are making good money, you're doing something good in your field and you probably have respect and all that goes along with that. You get a good benefits package, but do you get a chance to use it? Now, when I was a bioscientist, I'm pretty sure that we were told that we could take 2 weeks vacation each year, but I don't think that hardly any of us did it, except for those that had family outside the country. And, I went from that and then I started working in IT and I had the option to, but I took literally 1 day off from that first job. And that was the day that I interviewed to get my second job in IT. So,
wow. Yeah.
I spent
20 years in IT.
I'll tell you, when I left, I want to tell you, at one point I could have told you, and it was just a few months ago that I left, but I want to say I had like 5 to 7 weeks, probably closer to 7 of vacation just saved up because I'm thinking, well, summer's coming, kids are going to be out. And I always had 7 weeks saved up.
Wow. Yeah, you spend a lot of time in going around and around in that wheel. So that's interesting. So you felt like there was just an additional drive inside of you, even though things were, because a lot of times people will look at it from the outside and say, "Hey, listen, man, you're someone you're at the top and you're doing that." But you felt like it was more just, it was something that you wanted to do. Is that
exactly.
Would that be accurate?
And I remember when we were just launching the construction company, we'd have meetings that would go Monday night from 5 to 10 p.m. We'd have meetings on Saturday that would just go all day. And I thought, well, I'm refreshed after all this. This is weird. This is not like my ordinary 9-to-5 job working for the man. And I did have a good time. I mean, there were good times there. Hey, I got to win an award. I got to go accept it in San Diego. And I'm telling you, there were good times, but it was nothing like being the captain of my own ship.
You know what? And on that, George, so let's talk about that, right? Because I'm what you're talking about. I'm sure that there's so many people that are watching us, right, or listening. That are thinking to themselves, well, yeah, you know what? George has got top awards. I remember I was traveling a lot. I go to Hawaii. Like my company would send me to Hawaii because we were in the top salespeople in the organization, and you got all these accolades, and you got you're put in the top talent program, and it's just kind of like there's more. And the part of the picture that you're painting, I think, is great. And you're someone who focuses on entrepreneurship. There's a lot of really, really great things about entrepreneurship. Also, you're a very pragmatic individual as well. And I know that you wouldn't just tell the great with the part that's maybe not so great. So maybe talk to us a little bit about the part of entrepreneurship that a lot of people don't talk about, the part that they don't I don't know if it's they don't want you to know, but they just don't tend to talk about that's maybe not such a cool part of the entrepreneurial journey. And
Absolutely.
you're constantly interviewing people who are entrepreneurs as well. So maybe give us some of your insight.
Well, sure. If you don't mind, I guess I will jump into that for a second. So my podcast is all about entrepreneurship. So that's the angle I take. I could do yet another real estate podcast, but I don't think there's a need for that. I don't think people want to watch that. So yeah, that's something that really struck me. I thought what makes me different than other people who have a podcast is that I just love entrepreneurship. I'm not just doing real estate because it's something you can do that's a little bit like investing and a little bit like having your own business. It's because I just love the entrepreneurial end. So I said that you have to feel like you're free when you're an entrepreneur, Billy. Yeah. And that's the thing. Do you feel free when, for example, 2 weeks ago, I was really busy all weekend, could have been on my sailboat. We had nice weather in Michigan. Got to catch it while it's hot.
Oh, yeah.
And I could have easily gone out and sailed to nearby Party Island by my house and had a great weekend, but I had to finish up all the bookkeeping. But you know what? Even when I'm doing those things, it's cool because look, it's once a year. I have to make sure that I'm all caught up, send it out to the CPA and get it done. So there are a lot of times like that, but hopefully, and I just tell myself I'm going to make up for it. I don't have any meetings this Friday. And who knows, I may start a long weekend or even spend a week someplace that I want to be. And I will still work during the day. I like to avoid the sun. So I am a sailor, but you notice that I don't get a whole lot of sun. And hey, maybe I'll work during the day. And in the evenings, I'm definitely going to enjoy my island destination.
Yeah. So, and this is the insight that I love that you're sharing with us, right? There are moments in the entrepreneurial journey, and you are someone who's consistently interviewing entrepreneurs. Everyone go check out episode 67 of The Foundry. George was a gracious host, had me on his podcast. So definitely go check him out over there. The Foundry, once again, great podcast where he's getting insights from other entrepreneurs. And so everything is not a bed of roses, but at the end of the day, what you're doing as an entrepreneur is being able to own your time and do with your time as you like, with whom you like, and when you like. And I think that's the important part.
100%.
There are two kind of questions that I do want. I'm going to pack these into one question, George, because you talked to us about the starting the business with your sister, and you talked to us about the insights that you've gained. You talked to us about the different accolades you've had academically as well. But at the same time, like real estate, you kind of just threw it in there like, hey, you were a landlord and you had multiple types of units there and single family. But a lot of high paid professionals, right? I used to be one of them. And you're in these jobs and you're thinking, wow, this is amazing. This is cool. This is so fantastic. But there's something inside that gets you to move towards real estate, maybe as a starter. I know I started in real estate and I definitely have not stayed there, gone to a lot of different places, but what was it about real estate that got your attention and got you moving there? Was it, what was that? And then you also, in your very first couple words that you mentioned, you said that you're not just in the Midwest, you're actually focused on a different part, which is music to my ears here on the Going Long podcast, right? Helping people feel comfortable and confident. So why real estate? And then what is it about the current context that has you looking to go beyond your backyard?
So why real estate? It was the depths of the Great Recession. I almost said depression. It was pretty rough, but it wasn't that bad.
It was tough. I was there, man. I lost 33% of my portfolio value and it did not feel good.
Horrible. I'm telling you, it's rough times. But back then I was still a bioscientist, so still working all the time. The idea of being an entrepreneur, I mean, even a single family landlord of a single unit didn't really occur to me. But my dad, who has always been focused on the market, total serial entrepreneur himself, always launching a business. He was a mortgage broker. He could sell you anything from total financial services. That was not just the name of his company, it was what he did. Right. And he could sell you insurance. He could sell you stocks. He was a stockbroker, literally any financial instrument. He was always, I swear, every weekend, he was taking a different test to maintain his certifications, and he could do it all. So he was a real example to me. And he said, look, son, I know you feel like you have to sell that first house before you can get your second. And he also said, he was also the one who said, it's time to get your second. I'm saying, like, Dad, I'm good. We're all set. But he said, this will be the time to move up. And I'll try and tell the story really quickly, Billy, but I did deliver an award-winning speech on how I bought my house.
Okay.
About negotiations. And like when we walked into this thing, I just thought, like, I'm a bioscientist. I'm not making a lot of money. I'm doing very important work, but again, that doesn't necessarily correlate with dough. And so we walked in, and it's got like this Romeo and Juliet balcony. It's got a jacuzzi. It's got a fireplace. And I thought, my wife and I didn't say anything while we were being shown the place. And we walked back to the car, and I said, like, gosh, we could never own this place. My wife was thinking, yeah, I thought the same thing. And she negotiated for it really, really hard. And yeah. And gosh, I mean, just like so many people who bought 10, 11 years ago, it's more than doubled. So the house we never thought we could live in, we bought it, and it's more than doubled. Well, in the meantime, yeah, my dad said, look, you've got to just keep this house. You're going to become a landlord. It's going to be okay. I'll help you out a little bit if things get rough. And sure enough, it was rough to do that on a postdoc salary, but we did it. We moved into our big dream home. We made it happen. We stretched, and I learned. So Billy, to answer your question, how did I do it? I was just thrown into the deep end. So my dad, who'd always been an entrepreneur, that's the thing. You don't know really what you're good at. I mean, you may have tested well in this, you did well in this class, you're interested in that field, but sometimes you just get thrown into the mix and you find out, hey, you know what? Maybe I kind of miss my calling. And so for me, I just love entrepreneurship, and I love real estate because it has all the things that I like about investing, and yet it's stable. You have this definite need that makes it much more stable than equities, for example. But you asked me two questions at once, and I'm going to try to wrap it all up as quick as I can.
Yeah, sure.
Why am I investing in the Sun Belt? Because that's where you can get in and out of a deal in a few years, because you got the jobs growth and you've got the population growth that you can expect, hopefully. Decent appreciation, and it's worked out so far. But I am moving a little north now. I'm looking more like Tennessee, Kentucky, Southern Ohio, places that people are moving to, but that haven't gone nuts yet. So again, we are recording this in the midst of the everything bubble, and it's going to pop, and I think it'll be bad for real estate, but I think it's going to be less bad for real estate than any other place in the spectrum.
Really hope you're enjoying today's conversation. And once again, if you're an accredited investor and you are tired of getting crushed by your W-2 taxes and you're looking for a new way to gain more control over your freedom to choose, go to firstgencp.com/invest. Once again, that's firstgencp.com/invest. Now let's get back to today's conversation. So this kind of is going to open up a can of worms, but I'm fine, and you'll be good to do this. So we're going to do this, right? So because of course we really enjoy real estate here. Yeah. At the same time, and you and I have talked about this before, there is no one perfect vehicle to get you to a destination. If I want to fly back to the United States, I can fly to the United States. If I want to get to the United States, I can take a car. I can go from here on a skateboard, from the skateboard or a bike. I can go to the train station. I can go to Portugal, and then from Portugal, I can take a boat. Like, there are lots of different ways to get back to the United States. Just to kind of overly make things a little bit more dramatic here, right? At the same time, I know that you've also had exposure to, like, you're talking about where you're looking at other locations, right, from a real estate perspective, but maybe give us some of your insight into to other perspectives that you hear other entrepreneurs talking about in terms of being able to get to the destination financially, of course, that is not directly related to real estate.
Okay, perfect. So, well, first of all, I mean, if it isn't obvious, one of the great things about being in commercial real estate is you can invest a little further away from your home because it's big enough of an asset. You can get on a plane if you need to. And I'm looking for those areas that'll be less bad when the economy hits the fan. But in terms of other things, absolutely. I mean, I'm fascinated by the entire investment world. Like I said, I'm in equities. You got to have some liquid wealth, right? And it's a wonderful place to be because, I mean, you get to read the financial statements. Now, most people wouldn't say that's wonderful, but think about it. If you are a fundamentals investor, you learn about business. when you invest in equities, because you're reading the financial news, you understand what business your company is in and what sort of economic waves are hitting the shore. But you also get to read the financial statements, and there's a wealth of knowledge right there. I mean, you can do everything from just understanding that, yes, this company can pay their debt, to actually being forensic and looking for the next Enron and saying, this one, and people do that, right? People have actually made a lot of money pointing out that this company's toast. But yeah, I mean, I'm all over the map.
Yeah, well, and so the thing is, and I guess I would just very slightly push back. I know that you're not necessarily all over the map, because what you do is when you find something, you go deep, right? I mean, you and I were even talking about precious metals, and we were talking about the different commodities. But what's interesting, I mean, I was even reading in WSJ this morning. There was an article about Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger, right? At 98 years old and 91 years old, they're still reading through these different financial statements. They're understanding businesses, but at the end of the day, they're businesses that they understand, if they have the liquidity, or if they have the ability to pay their debt service, these types of things, which I think is important, and also helps us to elevate our level of thinking about different assets. So I just wanted to get some insight into that really, really quickly. But I do want to come back to what you had started to allude to already, which was, why are you going to these places that are long distance? Or as I would say, beyond your backyard? You've talked about the Sun Belt. You've talked a little bit about, you highlighted it, but what are some of because a lot of times people are scared, George, because a lot of the books say, look, you've got to be a landlord, and you can only buy in within a 5-minute drive from your house. You've given some of the insight into commercial real estate that allows you to do that. Maybe talk to us about one of the biggest areas that I think scares a lot of people, and that's being able to build a team. And what's your approach on that, or what have you seen that is an effective way to be able to build a team, especially when you can't drive there 5 minutes away?
Well, the first thing is you just have to get out there. I mean, you really have to network if you want to build that team. And the internet has made that easy for us. As for, maybe the less obvious end of it, you got to know where you fit in, right? It's all about adding value. So you're going to find that there's certain value that you know how to add, and there's certain value that you enjoy adding. And you want to go focus on those two things, either something that you already have or something you want to build. So if it's going to be in commercial real estate, you've got to go find the deal. So are you the person who's going to go out and send 100 letters and do the mailer campaign? Are you going to just get out there? Some people even knock on doors, right? Some of these mom and pop things, I've heard people getting success. You just knock on the door and say, hey, is the owner here? If they have a leasing office, and, hey, say, how were you able to buy this apartment building? And I had one deal where one of my partners, he got to know the property manager and handyman of the place, and called a couple times. After 2 no's, got an incoming call 2 weeks later saying, yeah, you know what? We are ready to deal. So do you want to be that sort of face-to-face person? And that's a great way to grow, because look, people say, hey, you got to start big, 200 units, 300 units. But if you're starting with even 2 units, you are far ahead of somebody who's just taking the single family route. If you're doing 4, that's much better. 5 and up, you're already commercial. So, I would say, hey, it's okay to go a little slower, right? You're already taking big strides by getting into commercial. So again, figure out, do you want to find the deal? Do you want to underwrite it? How can you help in due diligence? What do you understand? What have you done before? Do you like to run the deal? Can you bring capital to the deal? Maybe you have money, or maybe you know money. There are all these things that you can do. And there's the loan programs too. You can be on the financing end and you don't even necessarily have money or no money. You just understand the programs and you know who to go and how to go.
So, and being able to know who to go to, when to go to them, and what's the best approach to get to them, these are things that are fundamental. And at the end of the day, one of the things I love talking about as well, George, is it's hashtag teamwork makes the dream work. That's never been more appropriate than when you talk about the commercial real estate space. And being able to understand yourself, what you're good at, what you like doing. If you can find the overlap between those two, then it's like you talked about earlier, you never will work a day in your life, because you love what you're doing, you add lots of value, and you are another member of the team that helps to continue to add progress to the overall picture. So these are some of the things that I think are fantastic. And I know these time goes by so quickly. Before we get to the Go Along Final Three, I want to just have you talk a little bit at the high level also to tell us a little bit about, because we talked about the Foundry, talked about what you're doing there and how you're helping to bring the entrepreneurial picture forward and help to educate more people. With Horizon Multifamily, talk to us a little bit about what you're doing there, how you're also helping others.
Yeah, helping others is really what it's all about. I mean, when I was preparing for this show, one of the things I looked at is like, where do I want to take my business? And I'd really like to see people become demonstrably more wealthy from working with me. So we've gotten to the point where we are beating all our projections on all the deals I'm in. And that's really exciting. And as soon as we get to exit a few of these things, I'm going to get to see that. So as for what I'm doing there, I mean, I tend to be on the capital raising side. I just love people. I don't know if you noticed that. Thank you for noticing my amazing smile at the outset. But it's something that invigorates me. I talk to a lot of people who I think are people, and they are people persons, and they've got podcasts and everything like that, and talk to them and they say, oh yeah, no, talking to people tires me out. I got to go lay down after I go network. Not me. I can hardly sleep after I go and network. Yeah. So yeah, I just love people, but I love the asset management side too, the due diligence, everything. It all fascinates you. And so I think we all need to be enough of a generalist. You have to understand what's going on. But again, you do have to focus. But yeah, great team over there. And I already described to you Tom Kirkpatrick. He was the one who found us our amazing deal in East Tennessee, just reaching out. And he's the sort of guy who's willing to do that and play the long game. It might take years.
Yeah. And that is, at the end of the day, when you're building quality relationships, it's not something that happens just because you met the person 30 minutes before. Like,
right.
Would lovely that it would be that way, but if it were that way, then everybody'd be doing it. And the reality is, to build a strong long-term relationship, it takes time, it takes energy, it takes effort, it takes focus, it takes being intentional in order to get to building a true trusted relationship. So
yeah, that's the other definition of going long.
Oh yeah, definitely. We do talk about that frequently. Yes, it's just the long term. It's the long term, and that's what we're in it for. So, well, listen, George. Here's the thing, man. I want to just keep talking to you forever, right? And I know I'm going to get a chance to talk to you because we got a lot of stuff in common, a lot of things we can chat about. But the reality is, I've got to get us to the Going Long Final Three. And the thing is, George, because you're our special guest, I never ask anybody the Going Long Final Three unless you tell me that you're ready for me to ask you. So, are you ready?
I am ready.
Oof, you had me nervous there, but I knew you were going to come through. Here we go. All right. So, George, we started with you. On that side of the Atlantic. And although, I'm from Ohio and I'm from the US and all that stuff. Now I call this side of the pond my adopted home. And I would love for you to share with us, me and the entire Going Long family, what is your favorite European city that you've either visited, George, or is still on your bucket list to visit? What's that city?
Okay. Glad you opened it up because now we didn't say this in the pregame, but I have actually not been to Europe. And I love to travel. It's crazy, but I have not had the opportunity. But my wife and her family they're from Sicily. So I'd really like to see, I'd like to go see Augusta. So that's where her family is from. And I would just, that would be amazing. So Augusta.
So it will be, and that's fantastic. And when you're on your way over there to the Mediterranean, because it's very close, just let me know. Let me know you're going to be over this way. And I used to live in Italy. I was in Sardinia, but those are many years ago. So fantastic. So we got that. And listen, so question number 2, George, really has to do a lot of, I guess I consider myself to be someone who's very, very, very fortunate because I have had a chance to meet and come into contact with lots of very successful people. And I'm very fortunate to have this conversation with you today because you are someone who's very successful as well. You've had lots of different impact on lives. And hopefully, George, you will agree with me that one of the things that makes people that are successful, makes them so successful is they, unlike most people, when they put their mind to something and they devise a plan, they execute the plan and they get it right the first time, which then allows them to start to really... Did I just say that? I think I just said that. Don't worry, George. It's just a joke. It's a joke. Everybody, George is going, oh my God, Billy, did you just say it? It's a joke. It's an inside joke with me and the Going Long family. Sorry about that. Nobody's perfect. Nobody gets things right much less people that are very successful. Here's the reality, George. The reality is people that are successful, although it may not be talked about a lot, they make many more mistakes. I'm sure that you've made more mistakes than most people, probably 20 or 50 times more.
Good, I like it.
But here's the reality, George. Everyone who's successful does do one thing very differently. And this is no joke. It's anytime there's a relevant mistake or a learning opportunity or however you want to call it, without a doubt, every time it's a relevant one, those successful people stop, they take note of what happened, and then most importantly, they put different strategies, tactics, and actions in place to minimize the probability of that exact same mistake or learning opportunity happening again. So with that as a background, I don't want you to think about the mistake that you made or the learning opportunity that you made, but if you think about the Going Long family today, what's the one lesson, that one lesson that you know that we need to hear today that you want to share with us that's going to help us to continue to move forward and minimize the probability of something extremely drastic happening?
So look, if you're going to ask me for just one thing, I would say determination, because I feel like that's the antidote to every mistake that you make. If you are determined, you will find a way around it. As for me, I also work to mitigate the downside. That's a huge thing. I did mention, didn't really draw it out earlier, but that's why I'm moving from the Sun Belt to what I would call sort of the middle band of the country. But again, the main thing is determination.
Determination, fantastic. And now I'm going to add that little one you put in there as well, to focus on mitigating the downside.
Mitigating the downside, yes. I'm very analytic. So I would say you always want to be analyzing. Some people think that there's two tracks, analysis and action, but they're parallel tracks. So keep it up all the time. There's no reason to stop taking action, no reason to stop analyzing.
Fantastic. I actually just wrote a note, or I wrote today. I wrote on my LinkedIn about analysis paralysis, but that's a whole different conversation. We'll talk about that later on.
Yeah, I know all about that. We're from IT.
Yeah, exactly.
Just take action is my answer to that. Just take action.
Yes, action over thinking. So, lastly, George, this is about being able to fill our brains with knowledge, and I would love for you to share with us, what is the one book that you would recommend to the Going Long family today?
So I like to recommend a new book because there's always a new great book, and it's going to be The Tribe of Mentors by Tim Ferriss. I love Stoicism. I love his philosophy. Particularly, he's a modern Stoic. I think that that's a philosophy that if there was one philosophy our age needed, we need more Stoicism, not more noise. And what I like the best about it is it's not always the foreword to the book that is the best part. But with Tribe of Mentors, that is the case. He talks about how he wrote the book. He decided that he could get advice from anyone in the world these days. It could be, who knows? It could be, I'll just make it up because I don't remember his entire list, but could be Richard Branson, could be the Dalai Lama, could be Elon Musk. He can send out letters through the internet and get responses. And he just asked 11 questions. He asked 11 good questions, and he asked them of the most amazing people. And he has the sort of reputation that he got thoughtful answers, the sort of answers he was hoping to get that gave him his next book. And it's amazing. And obviously we can all do that, maybe on a smaller scale, but the world is wide. There's a lot of wisdom out there. And if you're willing to go out there and ask that question in a pithy way that gets you that response, you can find that you can have literally a world of mentorship.
Fantastic. So Tribe of Mentors, Mr. Ferriss, we're going to definitely include that in the show notes as well. Appreciate the additional insight. And, I'm just thinking about in the very beginning of this conversation, we're talking about you being in genomics and on the quantitative side of things. You talked about realizing that you had lots of the knowledge, but you had this desire to also get into the business. And so you wanted to you decided that then you were going to also go for your master's. You did that in data science. Then you had a number of conversations, one of which your sister said, hey, listen, there's this construction thing we want to get started up. And you decided, hey, listen, I've got this entrepreneurial bug. I've been watching Dad do this for many, many years. This is another opportunity to take the things that I've learned, be able to put it into action. And you absolutely went out there and did that. You like the thought of real estate because real estate at scale is very similar to data science, right? Which is numbers at scale. And so it was all of these different things that played together. And then not only did you take action once, but you took action again on imperfect information, by the way, to get involved in your next deal. And then from there, it's then continued to grow. You've continued to network. You continue to go out and meet people, as you mentioned. You are energized and invigorated when you go out and meet new people. And I'm sure that everybody in the Going Long family is feeling that. They're seeing that if they're watching the video version. And if you're not watching the video version, everybody, go check out the video version, at least a couple minutes. Hey. And so as we think about all these different impacts and the influence that you mentioned before that your fathers have had on your life. And I'm sure that you're paying that forward now. I mean, you just had 22 years of marriage that you're celebrating and being able to take these messages forward. And you do that either through your company at MF Horizons or Horizons Multifamily, as well as with your podcast, The Foundry. And I know people are like, hang on a second, Billy, just ask him the question, man. How can we find out more about George? Tell us where we can find him, all this kind of stuff. I've already kind of told him, but listen, help us understand. What's the best way for the Going Long family to find out more about what you're doing, George?
Great. So if you want to invest with me, come to www.horizonmultifamily.com and schedule a call. If you want to reach out to me and learn more, I'm always on LinkedIn. So go look for me. I am George Roberts III, PhD. Found out there are a lot of George Roberts there, so it helps to include a little additional info.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm literally all over the place. So reach out to me and you can find me all across the internet on Instagram, TikTok, literally cover all the bases. But again, I'm very open and I do still have 30-minute meetings. I do prefer to do a podcast if you have one or if you'd like to be on one. But if you're a little newer and you just want to talk to somebody, I remember the people who helped me out. So do reach out to me, even if it's just a message through LinkedIn, and more than likely, I'll try to accommodate you.
Fantastic. So we've got a couple rules here with the Going Long family. Everybody knows this. I just say it ad nauseum. And if you're new to the Going Long family, you're going to get used to me saying this. But yes, George is you can find him anywhere on the internet. And when you reach out to him, because you are going to, when you reach out to him on LinkedIn, do us both a favor. Make sure that you send him a personalized note so that he knows that you've already invested time listening and watching here on the Going Long podcast with Billy Keels. It's going to make the two of your conversation, it's going to make it so much easier because you have a point of reference. Yes. So make sure that you do that. Would be greatly appreciated. And then, listen, George, I'm just thinking to myself, man, I just want to say thank you so very much for deciding to invest your time with me and the entire Going Long family. Thank you very, very much, George.
Well, the pleasure is mine, Billy. Thank you very much. It's been a long time wish of mine to be on your podcast. Thank you for letting me make that happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And George, if you give me like 15 seconds, just want to wrap things up, saying a couple words to the Going Long family, and then we'll be out of here, man. Hey, GLP family, Going Long podcast family, was not this an amazing conversation? Listen, George gave you a number of different things to think about. Everything from thinking about where you are in your journey today, thinking about how you can use different vehicles to get to your destination, being able to make sure that you reach out and he's giving you an opportunity to talk to him. He's got amazing insight. Take him up on the offer. And listen, most importantly, take today's conversation, share it with your family, share it with your friends, and talk about it. That's the way that you're going to grow. You're going to go from theory to action, and you're going to get stuck. And that is when you also continue to talk to other people, bring other people. And like I said, reach out to George. He's making it really, really easy. So until then, listen, I'm going to be here while you're taking this and put it into action. So until then, go out and make it a great day. And thank you very much. Once again, today's conversation was sponsored by First Generation Capital Partners. If you want to find out more, go to firstgencp.com/invest.